Conference, it is my pleasure to introduce the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Alex Cole-Hamilton.
Thank you so much, Susan. Conference, Susan Murray's journey into politics is enough to make any Liberal Democrat proud. She joined our party to make a tangible difference to the people around her. Susan raised £500,000 for a skate park in Kirkintilloch before she was even elected as a councillor. Public service runs through her veins. She gets business, she knows what it means to be a carer, and the people of Mid Dumbartonshire are going to be so well served when Susan is sworn in as the next MP at the general election. And Conference, her team have knocked every single door. They're doing it again. They've had thousands of meaningful conversations with the people who matter the most. And every leaflet squeezed through every letterbox, even the occasional dog bite, moves us one step closer to winning back Mid Dumbartonshire from the Nationalists. Conference, this is the last time that we will meet before that general election. And I know that Lib Dems are knocking on thousands of doors every week right across Scotland, listening to people whose housing costs are skyrocketing, who are worried about the cuts being made to their children's school and the sewage being dumped in their rivers. People have had enough. They say it's time for change. And it's why, under Ed's leadership this month, we beat the Conservatives and into third place at the English local elections for the first time in a generation, taking control of true blue councils. And it's why we will be taking a paintbrush to the acid yellow wall of the SNP as well and painting it good old Lib Dem gold. To return Alistair Carmichael, Jamie Stone, Wendy Chamberlain and Christine Jardine. And at either end of the iconic West Highland Way, you'll find Susan Murray and Angus MacDonald. I know what it means to pour your time and your energies into a campaign. So I want to thank all of our amazing candidates for everything you've done already and everything you will do before polling day. But in particular, I want to thank your families and friends who are around you, supporting you on this journey. Conference, we have beaten the SNP before. We know how to do it, and together we will do it again. More Liberal voices for carers and teachers, for small business owners and islanders without ferries, for long COVID sufferers and young people struggling with their mental health, for everyone who can't get a GP appointment or see an NHS dentist. We will be your voice for a fairer deal. And as we go, I will tell you now, Conference, with your help, with the help of Liberal Democrats across the United Kingdom, it is absolutely within our grasp to overtake the Scottish National Party with more Liberals than Nationalists in the Parliament to come. Let us take those green benches from the SNP so that Liberal voices are once again heard at the very front of the House of Commons. Conference, if we misspeak in the Scottish Parliament, we have to correct the record. Well, in Dundee, at a conference last year, I misspoke. I told you that Humza Yousaf would be the last nationalist First Minister of Scotland. Honestly, the lengths he'll go to just to prove me wrong. Conference, no matter how they try to spin it, the newest leader of the Scottish National Party is anything but. John Swinney didn't know it when he relinquished the reins of the SNP 20 years ago, but his party was on the threshold of power. Now, as he picks those reins back up, he may not know it or believe it, but the SNP stand on the threshold of defeat. No wonder they won't call an election. And just like the Conservatives, the SNP have been in power for too long. Anyone will tell you that. My message to John Swinney is this: I'm in politics to get things done, to change things for the better. We will only meet you on the issues that matter to our communities and to our values as Liberals. There will be areas we can find common ground, and I hope we find it, because I love my country and I want the very best for it. And for me, sitting on the opposition benches doesn't mean opposition for opposing's sake. But my party will hold your government to account where it falls short, and in a parliament of minorities where every vote and every voice matters, we will never shy away from exercising our votes or our voices. And we will hold you to the standards that you say you will keep, and Conference at the very top of that list, we will be the protection of our hard-won progress on equalities and on human rights. Remember, for every day, from 2004 to 2024, John Swinney has been party to and complicit in every significant decision taken by the SNP High Command or around the cabinet table of the Scottish Government. Wingman to Nicola Sturgeon. He was wingman to Alex Salmond on education standards, on access to healthcare, on missed climate targets, on the ferries fiasco, failing to get the basics right. This SNP government's failures in government are John Swinney's failures in government. Conference, it was he who attended Gold Command, the secretive central committee at the heart of the government's response to the COVID pandemic, for which there is barely no record whatsoever. And it was John Swinney who deleted his pandemic messages alongside Nicola Sturgeon and other members of their top team. With that deletion of evidence, they undermined the work of both the UK and Scottish COVID inquiries. With that deletion, they deprived bereaved families of the answers that they are searching for. This may yet be the biggest scandal in the history of devolution, and a day of reckoning will come for the new First Minister. Conference, across these islands, a culture of sleaze, cronyism and rule-breaking is undermining faith in our democracy. Ministers never take responsibility for their actions anymore. Nobody ever seems to resign. We need to tackle that head on. I am proud that our manifesto will be the only one that contains commitments to long-held beliefs, like reforming the House of Lords, introducing proportional representation and a written constitution for a federal United Kingdom. After 25 years of devolution, it's time we refreshed Holyrood as well. It's having a quarter-life crisis. I'm told by millennials that's something of a thing. And it's why the Scottish Liberal Democrats will campaign for a new Accountability Act to break open the scandal of government by WhatsApp, to expand freedom of information, and create the right for people to recall their MSPs. Let's put power back in the hands of the voters, end the culture of secrecy and spin, and fix our broken politics. Conference, this isn't empty talk. We, as Liberals, have been there. We've done that. We've got the T-shirt. Remember, we're the party that switched Scotland's council elections to PR. And it was the signature of Jim Wallace on the statute book that broke ground for freedom of information legislation. That was Scottish Liberal Democrats delivering good, open government. That was devolution delivering, getting the basics right. It made me so proud to listen to Jim's speech earlier today. It gave me such hope, and it offers us vital lessons that we are going to need, because we will be part of what comes next. Conference, when our Parliament reconvened, some of the challenges we now face would have seemed almost inconceivable. The climate emergency, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, long COVID, and the insidious reach of abused technology. I'm talking about cyber attacks on our health service, deepfake AI in our politics, and hostile state surveillance. For Scotland to play its part, we need to go back to being the parliament that its creators, like Jim Wallace, like Donald Dewar, first envisaged. A place of ideas and challenge, of cooperation and compromise, a cathedral of public debate in which the priorities of the people will always come first. And Conference, we should be so proud of what we've achieved in the first 25 years of devolution. Free personal care, eye tests, dental tests, bus passes, that was us. The smoking ban and the abolition of student fees, that was us too. And the great liberal principles of land reform and fair votes for local government, all us getting the basics right. And we have so much more to do. Our parliamentary group at Holyrood may be small for now, but we are mighty. We have some of the hardest working MSPs in the Scottish Parliament. Willie Rennie tops the Speaker's table, having made more than 150 contributions in the past year, which, you know, I'm very pleased for him. I'm not competitive at all. It's not like I've got a party to lead or anything. But Conference, as that first parliament dawned, Jim Wallace spoke of our belief in the basic worth, merit, and integrity of every individual. He spoke of tapping the reservoir of enterprise and to tackle the vicious circle of deprivation and of underachievement. He concluded, "Those are fundamental principles to me and to my party. They are such important principles that I do not want just to talk about them, I want to do something about them." That challenge, Conference, that liberal challenge, exists today as much as it did 25 years ago, and we will rise to it. Conference, my father-in-law slipped away from us 6 years ago on a day not unlike this one. He succumbed to a kind of liver cancer that was mercifully painless and took him very swiftly after diagnosis. We'd managed to get him home from hospital, and when it was clear that the end was coming, Jill and her siblings moved back into the house to support their parents through the final week of his life. I would go out there whenever I could. It wasn't a chore, it was lovely. They'd created a bubble around him that was filled with love and laughter and light. And we took turns to spend precious time with him. There was such unexpected joy in those days. And then one morning he was gone, in a room bathed in warm spring light. It was very gentle. If I could choose, Conference, a manner for my own death, it would be that. But we don't get to choose. And at several points in my life, I have been brought hard up against the visceral reality that all too many people are denied a good death and depart this world in pain and in distress. For me, the assisted dying bill, currently before the Scottish Parliament, represents the next big liberal reform. It will join the advance of progressive change that has defined our movement, led by liberal giants like Lynn Featherstone in her introduction of same-sex marriage, David Steele when he legislated to allow safe access to abortion services, Ed Davey when he moved his amendment that ended Section 28 in England and Wales. Only one parliamentarian was trusted by campaigners to build bridges across the chamber to achieve this vital change, and his name is Liam MacArthur. We have rights designed to protect and safeguard every aspect of our life, save one, and that is our departure from it. Endings matter, in stories and in life, and I want to know that if I am dying in agony, beyond the reach of palliative care, or I know that that moment is coming, then I will have the right to say, this far and no further, and leave this world in dignity. Let me reassure you, Conference, no Liberal Democrat will be compelled to act against their conscience and vote for it. I know that not everyone in this hall is persuaded. I understand that. But our plurality as a movement sets us apart from all other parties. There are many different paths to a liberal Scotland. I am proud that there is a liberal at the helm of this legislation. Thank you, Liam. Conference, whether it is end-of-life palliative care nurses or your community GP, we are blessed with some of the finest clinicians in the world. But I don't think I need to tell you that there is a crisis in our NHS. It is self-evident. There was a time when you could see your GP at the first time of asking. That's almost unheard of now. I met someone in Caithness last week who rang their surgery 200 times when the phone lines opened at 8:30 before she eventually got through. 200 times. She was offered an appointment for the end of this month. Her story is not unique. It's happening everywhere. New parents being told that they could only get an appointment for their sick baby if it was urgent. Otherwise, they would have to wait 2 weeks. And it's the same for NHS dentistry. It has been left to rot. Patients ordering tools off Amazon to do the job themselves. Flying back to war-torn Ukraine. Conference, it says everything you need to know about the state of NHS dentistry, that someone has to brave the cruise missile attacks and the drones of war-torn Kyiv for basic dental care. Be absolutely clear. None of this is the fault of our hard-working staff. They deserve far better. We need a government that won't make empty promises, but will get the basics right. Scottish Liberal Democrats will create world-class mental health services by taxing the social media giants who cause so much of the problem. That will help you get faster access to your GP. We'll make sure that everyone can see an NHS dentist by overhauling the failed recovery plan and making it easier for qualified foreign dentists to practice here in Scotland. We would scrap the ministerial takeover of social care and dedicate the £1 billion it would cost into making that care a profession of choice once again, and introduce, as Ed said yesterday, a new, higher minimum wage for all care workers across the UK, relieving the pressure on our hospitals. Make no mistake, Conference, our NHS is on the line. If the SNP can't see that, or if they refuse to deal with it, they need to get out of the way for somebody who will. And valuing our staff isn't just about pay, safe staffing on every shift, or even just basic ministerial attention. It's about housing too, because health boards and care homes can't get the staff they need if there are no homes for them. John Swinney, along with Kate Forbes, Patrick Harvey, and everyone else in their parties who recently voted for a budget that cut £200 million from housing. At a time when homelessness is at a record high, there are 10,000 children living in temporary accommodation and hundreds of thousands of people on housing waiting lists. What hope do these people have? Councils and now finally the Scottish Parliament have declared a national housing emergency, but it is getting even harder to build a house in Scotland. Because on top of skill shortages, Brexit, inflation, Liz Truss, we've got Scottish ministers scaring off the investment that Scotland needs. They've ramped up the rhetoric, they've moved the goalposts, meddled more, and claimed that Scotland will be independent by 2029. And the effect? Undermining market confidence in house building all across Scotland. In fact, industry experts we met last week told me that £3.3 billion of reliable investment in house building has either been lost or put on hold, some of it already shovel-ready, because of the decisions of the SNP Green government. It's one of the key reasons that affordable house building has collapsed, dragging Scotland back to levels not seen since Margaret Thatcher. Conference, this morning you called for a new national housing plan, one that will stand up to the housing emergency and make lives better, to get more houses built, give people a home to call their own, and get the basics right. That starts with winning back the confidence of those people who were champing at the bit to build new homes in Scotland. So today, I am committing to working with business and our council group leaders to develop a new programme for key worker housing, attractive, sustainable housing reserved for the key workers our communities need. Conference, on the day I became the leader of our party, I told you about the 3 words that I believe are more important than any others in the English language for a person to understand and know to be true about themselves. And those words are these: you are loved. When Stephen Lawrence lay dying in the street, he was cradled by a passerby unknown to him. As she held him, she said those words over and over again until he died in her arms. You are loved. What an amazing act of compassion. I am in Politics Conference in large part because after 20 years in youth work, I have met too many children who, in the care of this state, will never fully understand the meaning of those words or know them to be true about themselves. Like the young boy I met in a care home who'd been through 37 failed placements before he was 8 years old. That memory still keeps me awake at night. Liberals are united by that sense of love and compassion for people in our society who have experienced the very worst possible start in life, and those half a world away that we will never meet, fighting climate injustice, poverty, and state-sanctioned oppression. It's why Jill and I took in a Ukrainian refugee for 9 months. It's why I've been working with the Russian dissident community to establish a permanent memorial to Alexei Navalny and demand our country seize Kremlin money wherever we can find it. Putin will not be lifting my sanction anytime soon. The considered, selfless response of liberals the world over to strife and iniquity is why I joined this party. I know that there will be many in this room and across the country deeply worried about the increasing prominence of regressive and intolerant voices here and around our world. I share that concern profoundly. I have at every stage of my career upheld our party's commitment to equalities, sometimes at political cost, sometimes against the prevailing winds of public opinion. I have done so proudly, and that will never change. I have strived to be an ally since growing up in the 1980s under Thatcher. And let me say this: I will always fight for the rights of every part of the LGBT plus community, always. It's partly why I'm in politics now, and it is why I am, and always will be, a proud member of this party. Just imagine, Conference, just imagine what can happen with more Liberal Democrats in the next Parliament. First-class MPs who will fight the cost of living emergency by repairing the welfare safety net, protecting the pensions triple lock, by expanding employment rights for new mums and dads, and by cutting bills and emissions, by making every home warmer. Local champions who will fight for a fair deal for every part of these islands, fund mental health by taxing social media giants, improve access to local health services, value our carers, deliver £1 billion more for farming, and get the sewage out of our rivers. Conference, with every Liberal lion we elect to the House of Commons, we can help Britain stand taller on the world stage once again. We will end the scandals and the sleaze, restore our international aid budget, fix our broken relationship with our nearest neighbours, and point our compass back to our true north, back towards the single market, back towards the very heart of Europe. Conference, that's the prize. That's the prize. That's what we're here for. So let's kick the Conservatives out of number 10 and smash the blue wall. Get change for Scotland by tearing down the acid yellow wall of the SNP as well. Because now, more than ever, people deserve a fair deal. From Milngavie to Mallaig, Cooper to Cape Wrath, people are choosing the Liberal Democrats to make that change happen. Scotland is ready for change. Scotland is desperate for change, and we are here for it. Thank you.